Okay. Welcome to today's professional development session. Today, we're going to be learning about how to be power hitters and helping our students to become more successful. And there are 3 big steps to help them to become more successful. These steps can help your children in any kind of test-taking strategies, but it can apply in the classroom and it can apply at home. So I have an agenda for each of you. Thank you. You're welcome. So we are going to be looking at how we can help students to achieve success by lowering anxiety, focus, and endurance. So I'm going to give you a pre-assessment to see where you are before we dive into this session today. So if y'all would just engage yourself as kind of a student right now, take some time to think about where you feel as a teacher, but also assess yourself in your thinking of helping your students in these 3 big areas of lowering anxiety, focus, and endurance. And you can put your name on there or you can leave that anonymous. It's up to you. So first of all, I just wanted to say thank you for diving right in and engaging in the content right away that I had to share with you. However, we as educators know that a lot of times in the classroom, that's not what we get from our students. When we put a lesson right in front of them, they may not be able to engage. And one of the reasons they may not is because they may be suffering from anxiety. And that anxiety could be a result of trauma. And when a student has experienced trauma, they often can't even access that part of their brain where the learning is taking place. What's happening is really what we think about it is the lizard kind of their brain. It's where the amygdala is. It's where the brain first forms. And so that is where you get the saying of fight, flight, or freeze. So when a student is in that state, they cannot think about what you are asking them to learn. They're in that state of fight, flight, or freeze. And it may have nothing to do with the worksheet that you put in front of them. It may have nothing to do with the lesson you're trying to engage them in. And as much as you planned and you feel like, hey, I've worked so hard for this lesson and I can't get you to pay any attention, it may not be personal. It may be that that student experienced trauma on their way into school this morning. You know, I was just talking with a student yesterday who was telling me how scared she is of trains because she lived on the other side of the train track and she had had 2 dogs die right there in front of her when the train came by and hit her dog. And sometimes those trains would park themselves in front of her house and they wouldn't move overnight. And so she would have to jump over the train to get to her bus in the morning. And we drove past the train tracks where she used to live. And she told me that she's just so afraid when she sees trains now. And you know, I've never thought of trains inducing fear. Like, I mean, to me, it just seems like such an innocuous thing to be afraid of. And until she shared that experience with me, I would not have been, associating trains with fear. Well, what other things are we bringing into our classroom that could be triggering a fear and we don't even know it? So one of the ways that we can do that is help connect with our kids. So on another level, I would like for you to be able to connect with each other and connect with me so that we can talk and feel safe to engage in this content for today. So I have a ball that wherever your right thumb lands, and maybe it will land in one little shape and not two, but whichever one you want to take. Just read out loud where your thumb lands, what that question is, and take a second to think about it and respond. Because we want to be able to feel like we can connect with each other and get to know each other a little bit more before we're ready to dive in as learners. So that's going to be one of the most important things that you do with your students when you are ready to start the classroom and to start the school year, is get them feeling like, I can trust you. I feel safe with you. Because when they come in and they're in that place of that fight, flight, or freeze, they may not trust you yet. They may be in a state of trauma. And so what happens when a student is in that state of trauma is they feel like everyone around them needs to engage with them in their state of heightened alert. So when you're in a state of heightened alert all the time, then everything seems like something that could be a threat to you. And you need to show that learner, hey, I'm not a threat to you. I am safe and I am here to help you. So that's what I would like for us to do. So thinking of yourself for a moment as a student, let's engage with each other. So I'm going to throw the ball to one of you. And if you don't want to be the first one to answer a question,
Get it away.
you are fine to take a pass. And you can say pass and give it back. Because one of the things we want to make sure is our students feel safe to connect with each other, safe to share. One of the things that I start my school year with is sayings of understanding, something that we repeat all throughout the year, is that it's safe here. And we are super safe keepers as heroes of the classroom, and helping the students know that I'm here to keep them safe and I need them to help me do that job and keep their classmates safe. So we have a saying, and we say that we're all learning, we're all growing, and every answer is okay because we choose love in all that we do and all that we say, because that's the super safe keeper way. So with your capes up, if you would join me in being ready to connect with each other. Again, feel free to pass if you don't feel safe yet. That's what this activity is for, is to connect with each other so that we can begin to feel safe. So Diana, right thumb.
A song you are sure you'll never forget. Cuts like a knife.
Cuts
Is,
like a knife.
Yeah, Brian Adams. I know I'm an 80s girl.
Do you want to sing it for us? Or no?
You don't want me.
All right, well, you can pass it back to me or to someone beside you.
You have to tell me when you get to
Yeah, and maybe say your name to help us get to know each other, just like we would do with our learners at the beginning of the year. It's getting to know each other, saying each other's names. And when you hear your name, you're more likely to feel safe because you feel connected to that person.
Michelle, how does the internet best serve you? Oh, can be an escape.
Ooh, that's good.
Okay. Amy, a book you have always wanted to read. Okay. I promised a student of mine, I still haven't read it, I have to read Harry Potter.
Okay.
I have to do that. So yeah.
Thank y'all for engaging in that. And it was good to know each of you a little better. And mine said the name and location of your elementary school. So that is an elementary school, not that I teach at, but an elementary school I went to. So, I went to school in Oklahoma, so I was at Anderson Elementary. So,
Cool.
thank y'all for engaging with me in that. So I have some other tips to help you and your beautiful brain. Oops. Hope I can get through this.
Yeah.
So it is very important we help our students to reduce anxiety in order for them to feel safe. Once they feel safe, we can help them to focus. Once they focus, then we can build endurance. So we have to be our own advocate to destroy negativity. So many of our students come to us, and it is really sad how they talk to themselves. So we hear a lot of negative talk of, I can't do this, I'm never going to be able to do this, I can't test well, I can't focus. And we need to turn those I can'ts into I cans. And the way that we do that, one, is by modeling it and locking on when you hear those students talking about themselves in a positive way. Let's capitalize on that. Well, I think this is an example of one of those kids.
Everyone, it is Lee from right field, and that ball is hit and gone. Little boy in a baseball hat stands in the field with his ball and bat. Says I'm the greatest player of them all. Puts his bat on his shoulder, tosses up his ball. Ball goes up and the ball comes down, swings his bat all the way around. The world's so still you can hear the sound. The baseball falls to the ground. Now the little boy doesn't say a word, picks up his ball. He is undeterred. Says I'm the greatest there is ever been. Grits his teeth, tries it again. The ball goes up, the ball comes down, swings bat all the way around. The world's so still you can hear the sound. The baseball falls to the ground. He makes no excuses, he shouts no fear. He just closes his eyes and listens to the cheer. Boy picks up his ball, stares at his bat, says I'm the greatest. Game is on the line, and he gives his all. One last time. The ball goes up, the moon so bright, swings his bat with all his might. The world's as still can be. The baseball falls. That's strike three. Now it's supper time, and his mama called. Little boy starts home, his bat and ball. Says I'm the greatest. That is a fact, but even I didn't know it's like that. Says I'm but even I didn't know I could pitch that good.
That just
There's one. It is.
such a great way of looking at things. Like, I think we could use some tips from that little boy. So if you could just turn and talk with your neighbor about ways that you have maybe seen a student show examples of talking positive to themselves, or ways that you have helped students talk positive to themselves. so that we can take that tool and share it in our classrooms.
We're all waiting for that.
Well, even finding like the small victory in what they did, even if the problem was wrong or the question was wrong, just that small victory.
Or getting them to realize, hey, I can work this a different way.
Right.
And see if I can find the answer of a different method or purpose of doing it. Because sometimes they get really fixated on, I have to do it this way. It's like, no, you don't. You can try it some other way.
I agree.
Well,
I
thank
mean,
you.
something as simple as remembering to put your name on your paper or bring things to class.
Yes.
That's a positive thing for a lot of kids, just even remembering that.
Because that's what we had out of this boy, was he didn't get a single one of the hits, right? But that's not how he chose to see it. It was just reframing his thinking so that he saw, wait, no, I didn't hit the ball one time. Man, I really pitched so good. So helping them to see it from a different angle and see where they are successful. I'm reminded of a student that I served a couple of years ago who was not successful at all, but if he began to just even understand the concept, he was so proud of himself and he would just be beaming and you couldn't help but just tag on to his excitement, because it's like, yeah, that's exactly what I want. And he was modeling it for himself. And he knew that he was on the right track towards success just by speaking positively to himself. So this is another way that we can reduce anxiety, is by speaking positive affirmations over ourselves and over our students. So this is something that you would have to teach the students to do, because at first they may laugh at you if you were to play something like this. But I have had success with playing this, like even in a first grade classroom, where students began to understand that there is something positive in setting the tone for the classroom and how it helps them to be ready to learn. So I'm not going to play the full clip. I'm just going to give y'all a feel for what this feels like. And I would even tell the students, hey, get comfortable in the classroom. We can turn down the lights and just engage in being aware of how our body is feeling. Do I feel anxious? And measuring what it feels like when we begin to not feel anxious, so that we notice our breathing gets slower and we notice, wait, I'm in a more calm state. So what you're doing by walking your students through that is empowering them with the tools so that they understand the difference in what that feels like. When I feel anxious, my breathing feels heavier, my breathing feels more accelerated. And once you've brought me to this calm place, now all of a sudden, I feel like I can focus on what you're saying. So bringing those metacognitive skills, though, into play so that they're more aware of what their body is doing.
Healthy music for a child's heart, body, and mind. A learning station, Fred.
Turn that screen on.
Or in your land. Notice your breath flowing in and out. Each breath says, I am safe and I am calm. I am safe and I am calm. Slowly place your hands on your belly. Breathe in, have your belly go in. Breathe out, have your belly go in. Breathe in, have your belly go in. Breathe out, have your belly go in. Breathe in, have your belly go in. Safe. Breathe out, have your belly go in.
So that goes on for 3 minutes. We won't carry on with that, but it allows you to bring your students into a place where they can feel what it feels like to feel safe and to feel calm. And from there, they can feel ready to learn. Because again, if they're in that reptile part of their brain, that amygdala state of their brain, they're not in a place where they feel ready to learn. And they won't be able to engage in that until they have the tools to be able to access that on their own. So one big thing that we want to drive home is this isn't just for the classroom, this is for everywhere, so that we can feel safe when we're feeling scared and we may be outside of the classroom. That might be in a car ride that's making us anxious. That might be, in a thunderstorm that's making us anxious. You don't want to set it up that you're telling your student that you think that they don't feel safe at home. Give them some other, examples of that so that they're not associating that with a negative stigma of being at home, but giving them the tools to be able to bring themselves to that place of safe. And
Music for a child's heart, body, and mind.
one of the greatest tools that I love is Conscious Discipline's website on breathing techniques. And these are free on their website. You can access them. I have a cube that I purchased years ago from them that teaches some of the breathing techniques. And I would like to teach y'all one of those, or a couple of those. The balloon breathing is one of my students' favorite ones. So what I do is I teach them a few of these and we just practice it several times until they can become a leader in it. And then they take the cube and they're the ones that lead their classmates in one of those breathing techniques. So the breathing techniques don't just help us with lowering our anxiety. They also go hand in hand and feed into our focus, because we can focus better when we are more aware of our breathing. So let's do the balloon breathing. If you would interlace your fingers and put them on top of your head. And then we're going to take 3 deep breaths in. And as we do, we will blow up our balloon. I want you to watch me do it, and then you can do it. Go ahead. And hold your breath, and then we're going to let it out slowly. As we let it out, feel the stress leave your body. Feel the pressure leave your body. And I like to close my eyes and even just feel my body relaxing. Notice how your shoulders may begin to relax. Notice how you feel just stress leaving your body at that moment. I mean, there's just such a tangible reality to that. That is one of the students' favorites. Now, sometimes when we're stressed, we can't do something that is so demonstrative right there. So I like to teach the students just simple ones like the ear rub. And if you take your thumb and forefinger and rub it, rub your thumb towards your finger, starting at the top of your earlobe, and then keep going until you get all the way down to the bottom of your ear. And then you make a check mark by pulling down and pulling up. And so what you're doing is stimulating the blood flow in here in your brain to make yourself more alert, more focused, and it sends a quick reset.
Don't like touching my ear.
No.
I don't like anyone touching my
And
ears.
that is okay too. Again, it goes back to like with the ball, if you don't feel comfortable doing something, we're certainly not, that won't be helpful for you then in that case. And so, for you, I might teach you how to rub your palm in a circular motion. And doing that also creates that blood flow, engages in the blood flow, and gets your body back to that state of I'm alert and I can focus. So what often happens is our students are just in a state sometimes of I'm too rested and I need to be alert once again. So we'll get to that in just a minute. So are there any others y'all would like me to show you up here before we move on?
What's the pretzel?
The pretzel you'll have to stand up for. So if you
Okay.
want to engage in it, if you'll stand up.
Thanks, Amy.
Sorry, we need to wake up.
That's right. Okay, so this is a wonderful one. It's actually one of my favorites because our body has 2 midsections. So there is a vertical one right here. Actually, that's the horizontal. So you run your hand vertically And so what we're doing is alerting the left hemisphere and the right hemisphere of our brain to start talking to each other again. When we start feeling sleepy, then that goes into that rested state. When you're activating those two sides of your brain once again, what you're doing is telling your brain, hey, pay attention, this is important, focus. The same thing as bilateral tapping, when you tap both sides of your body. So with the pretzel, what you're going to do is take your right leg and cross that midsection right there over to your left side. So your feet are backwards looking now. And now you're going to hold your arms out and, and you're going to bring your hands together, but now cross them just like you did with your feet. Now point your thumbs down. Point your thumbs down at the ground. Interlace your fingers. The thumbs are still pointed at the ground. And now you're going to bring your elbows out. Your hands are still now pointing towards the ground, and you're going to keep turning them in until they come all the way back up into your chest. And now you're going to take your tongue. We're going to take a deep breath in, hold it, and you're going to put your tongue on the roof of your mouth and hold it for about 20 seconds and then slowly exhale. Feel your body relax, and then you're just going to slowly get out of the pretzel. It's pretty cool. That's it. So what you're doing there is you're telling both sides of your brain, double cross, to pay attention.
And that does help, like, to activate your
Yes,
brain, like,
it
one
tells
of the
your
focus
brain
things.
to focus, and it actually gets, it also helps to reduce the anxiety because it's part of that bilateral tapping and helping your body to say, hey, I'm calm again. So, one of my students' favorite ways to focus is with a fidget. So in my classroom, we have a fidget jar. And when I've taught the younger grades, I had a whole space for that in a safe place, which is another conscious discipline tool. But with the older grades, I just have a jar of them accessible, and they know that they can get them when they need them. So I have the tools here for a fidget for us, and we're going to all make our own, and you get to keep it, or maybe throw it at your spouse or child or whatever you decide to do with it to make you feel less stressed. No, totally kidding on that. So,
Darn.
so if everybody will take one of those and grab a funnel, and I have some more, I believe.
Just the front three.
Yeah. I have one somewhere.
That's all good.
Okay.
Do you want to use mine and you can model?
No, you're good.
Okay.
So, the water bottles, where did I put them? Okay, here's the other one. Okay, so using the water bottle, you're going to fill partially your fidget.
Could we use one, like share a water bottle?
Yeah,
That's
that's
a good
good.
chicken on.
I have these little Orbeez, and they're going to get bigger inside of the water. And then you can have different colors that you can choose from. Now, colors are also another tool to help lower anxiety. There are certain colors that can bring us to a calm state easier than others, but I would just say let that be your own choice. But just so you know, your blues and purples are your more calming colors, greens. So red actually means get hungry. So you may
That's
not
funny
want
because
that.
the side boards, they paint them pink, don't they?
Okay, so maybe pink.
I think so.
Hmm.
Yellow is a no-no on a side board.
Yeah, red is, isn't red like an anxiety?
And
issue?
which all the reds are. Red means to get hungry too.
Oh, wow. I'm not.
That's why they're all snacking.
That's right. So y'all choose what you want. But
How much water do you
maybe
think we
these
need?
are yours. I don't know. Maybe they're just
Like that
different
much?
sizes.
I don't know.
Yeah, I would say maybe not as much, and then we could always add more. And there are glitters in here if you would like. And then we'll just zip tie it off.
Oh, wait, these are the Orbeez, I think.
What is an?
Okay, then what are these?
These
Those
are
look like
just like
styrofoam
styrofoam
balls.
balls.
Okay, so
For the
these are the
texture.
ones that are gonna get bigger.
Yeah.
So I have clear, blue, yellow. Oh, I have a,
Green? No green.
yes. I do. Here's the
No man,
green.
my green.
She loves
Thank you.
green.
Yes.
These are the Orbeez.
Is it glitter?
Michelle, what
down.
color would you like?
What color's that?
It's kind of a blue.
I'll do blue. I don't like red.
Mhm.
I'm gonna mix.
Yep, like clear and the blue.
That'd be pretty.
Is it supposed to be common?
Yes,
Okay.
so,
Cause I would pick different colors if it wasn't common.
yes, so it can be a stress tool because a lot of times when the students are feeling stressed, they need something tactile to help calm themselves down. So after you finish that, I'll come by and I'll give y'all a zip tie. And then throughout the rest of the session, you can just squeeze on your stress
My
ball.
little thing is too small.
But I wanted to show you some of the other tools that I might have,
I'll give you this.
that I could provide as well if y'all are interested.
I'm sorry, if I'm gonna, but sounds good.
Oh, you're good. I shouldn't be talking over you.
It's okay.
There's some other little, sea looking creatures you can throw in there.
I don't think they'll fit.
I know
And
you
they're,
have to,
they're kind of stick together. so.
I
right?
wonder how big these Orbeez get.
I know, cause they do,
They can get.
they
kinda
can
big.
grow. Here you go, when you're finished.
And is that one? I
What?
think I have, my thing
Yes.
is too small.
Your funnel,
Mm-hmm.
the whole,
Yeah.
you're just gonna have to keep working at it maybe?
I can do that.
You're gonna have to show endurance.
Yeah.
I think it's put some glue.
Practice my calming techniques. fine.
There you go. Well, here, if you wanna change the funnel out, I do have a bigger funnel hole here.
Let's see. I don't know if that's it or if it was wet.
Nothing glitter.
I know, I don't know how much water I should have. in there either.
No, I clogged up this funnel. There you go.
So some of the other things that I would put in, access to those fidgets are just like these little poppets. I often have a pinwheel in there because it makes the students deliberately focus on their breathing and they're watching the pinwheel moving. They have to be deliberate with their breath. This tool is a little off track, but they just love to watch it and calm themselves down. This is not one of my favorites because it makes
They
so
clap,
much
yeah.
noise, but they love a Jacob's ladder.
Yeah,
Those
Is there
jelly,
more water in there?
yes.
you know, those jelly noodle things.
Oh, yes, and I have some of those too in my fidget jar, so I can grab those too and show y'all.
I have them in class.
Here, I'll show you. I think it made it in my jar. These type of things.
Yes.
Yes.
And these are great because they can stretch and they can tie them. But it's just something tactile to help calm them and provide focus at the same time. So I'm gonna let y'all keep finishing that up as we go through the other tips, because we're still only on lower anxiety.
We're good. Keep going.
We're listening.
So besides,
Good.
those areas of focusing by breathing, using breathing techniques and our fidget tools, we also can help our students to focus by ensuring that they get enough sleep.
What did you do?
Is it coming, like, is it leaking?
We'd like to see my colleagues. Good, it's all good. It just squirted right out.
Okay, so it just came back up the top of the
Yeah.
funnel. Okay.
It's all good.
I have some napkins, I'm sure.
I'm sorry.
No, you're good. Here you go.
I don't know, where do we zip tie it?
I think after you take it off,
Before it squirts out.
zip tie it.
Tie it. Mine
This
keeps
is
going.
a gym activity because this didn't tell us how to close it off.
Like down here, or up here,
I
I would think.
because those float.
Yeah,
yes, they'll come down.
yeah, they are.
Okay, so you took the funnel out?
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry, we're.
Keep going.
No, you're good.
We're not the GT kids.
I think you could just tie it wherever you wanted to.
Maybe you can slide it down. Right?
Yeah,
Because
So-
those little styrofoam things float.
they do.
Yeah,
that's
so
what
they won't
happens.
stay
Yeah,
down
it'll come
there.
back up. Okay, go ahead.
And then I have scissors, we can cut off, we can trim up your zip ties. But it is very important that our students are getting enough sleep. Well, if they're in an anxious state, they may not be falling asleep. But some other things that you need to help make your learners aware of is how important it is that they are getting enough sleep so that they can be a successful learner. Because not getting enough sleep causes just a giant storm of other side effects. And one of those is your child cannot focus. So the CDC actually recommends 9 to 12 hours for up to 12-year-olds. So they're probably not getting enough sleep. So just have your students start logging and keeping a log of how much sleep they're getting. Talk to them about the importance of turning that screen off at night before they go to sleep. No YouTube, TikTok, or gaming. So don't try to stay up all night before a big test and cram in the studying because you're not going to do your best. Athletes actually lay off of heavy lifting and heavy training right before a big game or performance because it's more important to get that rest. These things will help us to focus. Also, just getting up and stretching during the test, using some of those breathing techniques that I've already shown you. Encourage your students to get up, move, and stretch in order to focus. And crossing, like we've already discussed, those midsections to keep the blood flowing. Here's another huge thing that will help your students to be able to focus better. There are certain foods that are going to help them be able to focus better. So we want to say no to processed foods like fried foods, junk foods, sugary foods, maybe the pizza that I fed you before this. Say yes to fruits, vegetables, and proteins. But in addition to that, it is so important that they are getting enough water. Hydration is so key to focus. So we've talked about lowering anxiety. We've talked about focus. Now, to be able to endure, we ask so much of our students. They take a giant test at the end of every school year. Even if they're not in a star grade, they are taking big tests when we're looking at progress monitoring. How do we get them to show the endurance that they need? Well, we need to teach them how to pace themselves. They don't know how to pace themselves. And in our fast-paced world where we want to get our answers quickly, we have to train them to be able to do that. How do we do that? Well, I have a video that I want to show you where this teacher talks about the RLA star and how it's like a pitcher of water, and she has close to a dozen cups here. And she talks about how you want to just do a little bit in each section at a time. We're not going to watch the whole thing, but let's just cue in for a little bit of it.
Gulp it all down, that's impossible. I would need to do it in small chunks and pace myself out because all of it is important and I need all of it for my body. Water's really good for us, right? I need all of it, but I need to pace myself. So how are we gonna do that? Looking at this load, I can't just gulp this down. I've got to pace myself. So let's pour out each section of your RLA STAR test so you can pace yourself better. First up, this is your test. And first up, it's going to be a reading passage. Now we know what those look like. It's going to have a title. It's going to be some type of genre. We're going to have some questions about it. Next up, I'm going to put this one all the way to the top because this is the paired passage. You all will have one paired passage. That means two passages put together in one. I'm gonna continue on through that test with my next reading passage. Red. Up next, oh, it's a different color. It's because it's my ECR, also known as the essay. Now, I'm gonna put down my picture for a second. This ECR will be part of one of these reading selections. And so this is just an essay, a composition, a paper. It's been called a lot of different things, but this is when I have to answer one question about one of these passages. Let's just say these two together about this passage, and I have to prove my answer with evidence from the text. And so this is a different color because it connects to reading, but it is going to be separate in the sense that this is connected to the reading, but you are going to show that you know how to answer that one question through writing. So this is your composition essay about one of these passages. So it's right near our reading portion, but we could say you can go with that one. Just let's pretend it goes with this reading passage. I'm not done. I have plenty more to drink. Next up, revising. Now I will have two revising passages. So this next one will be the same color. When you get to these revising passages, you are using your writer's eyes and you are looking for ways to editor, investigator, and how I'm going to attack it. It may be in this order when you get on really easy.
Okay, so she went into great length talking about how it is necessary to endure across a big test. And our students often look at one passage, one set of questions, do their best there, and then drop off. And how do we teach our students how to endure? And it doesn't have to be talking about the STAR test. This is something that you need to be building up to all year long. And it is a matter of showing endurance and showing our best at the beginning of the school day and at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. How do we get there? Well, we have to practice getting there because we have to pace ourselves. Some of these strategies, taking a drink of water, giving it our best, take a break, take a breather, can be applied all throughout the test, all throughout the school day, so that our students can show that endurance to be successful all the way until the very end. So I hope that this has helped you in thinking about how you can endure and teach your learners how to endure. And I wanted to give you my last thing that I would like to share with you that I often share with my learners. And it is a question of what do you do when life gets very hard? When life gets challenging, and if you've been around me long enough, you know this story and you know that I have an obsession with bouncy balls because life gets hard and we often could crack under the pressure of it. But I encourage my learners and I share this lesson with them every year. I think I would like to flip it though and do it at the beginning of the year. I often leave it with them as a token to encourage them to show grit, leaving me, but really it's something we should be training them in all year. So grit and endurance are synonymous, really, because we can endure. And it's really great when it's something you're good at and you keep showing endurance. But what about that kid who's like the boy who sees himself as a better pitcher than the batter, you know, when he really wasn't a good batter, when you're really not that good at those revising questions, or you're really not that good at, you know, those math foundation skills, when you're really not very good at whatever that skill that's being asked of you, then how do you show endurance? And I share with my students times in my life where life got hard. And I tell them about how I was older than all of my classmates by the time I learned how to tie my shoes. And I tell them about how I went to kindergarten twice because it was so difficult for me. I couldn't figure out the social skills of making friends. And so my parents said, you need to go to kindergarten again next year. And I tell my students about how I was so much older than all my classmates by the time I learned how to ride my bicycle. And when I'm teaching older kids, and it was my fifth graders I was talking to, I even tell them about how my marriage almost fell apart. And my husband and I even split up for a while before we came back together. And we showed grit and endured. And I tell them that there were times that life hit me so hard that I wanted to crack under the pressure of it. But I chose now to not let that be my story. And I won't be like the egg that cracks under the pressure. Now, y'all reacted so quietly, but let me tell you, when I do this with kids, they're screaming at this point. And I ask them, what are you going to do when life gets hard? Because it will. Because you're going to come across passages you don't know the answer to, and you're going to come across math problems you don't know the answer to. And there's going to be times you don't make the football team, or you don't make the basketball team, or your best friend decides she doesn't want to be your friend anymore. And even harder things that I know some of you are already facing, and you're facing right now. What are you going to do? Are you going to crack like this egg just did? Or are you going to be like the ball that when life gets hard and the pressure comes upon it, what does it do? Well, it bounces back even higher than before. And the more pressure is put upon this ball, the more it rises up and rises back. And so I ask each of you, will you be the ball, or will you be the egg? And that's how I'd like to leave today. So I'd ask each of you, do you want to be the ball or the egg?
The ball.
The ball. And do you want to be the ball or the egg?
The ball.
And the ball or the egg? And don't we all? So I hope we will all bounce back and show our learners how to lower anxiety, how to focus, and how to endure and be the ball that bounces back. Thank you for joining me today. We're finished. I'm going to leave them with a post assessment to see what they've learned, but thank you.
Thank you.
Can you stop that? Gonna press stop. I heard.
What's wrong with this phone?
Is it really?
Is it old?